Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tax Code Advisors. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know you guys have a lot of questions, but hang in there and I'll try to answer those throughout the presentation or maybe even at the end of the presentation. So today, I'm going to be focusing on financial freedom number. So what that means is many of us who are small business owners or people who are preparing for retirement or people who just want to, have an option to work or not work. So a lot of us kind of work our entire life trying to figure out if we are going to be able to retire properly or not. How are we going to deal with our medical expenses? Will we have enough savings to last in the retirement years and so forth? So to answer all of those questions, we need to figure out our financial freedom number, right? So I'm going to help you run some calculations today and show you how I run these numbers during my consultation calls. So those of you guys who have never worked with me before, so there are two ways I work with clients. One is I do an hourly consultation that can be on any matter that client likes to discuss. And other one way is we do comprehensive tax consultation. Those are longer, usually 6 to 10 hours long, and they last over 2 to 4 days. And we look into everything that is happening in your life financially and trying to figure out how can we make those things efficient. How can we, reduce your debt? How can we reduce taxes? How can we restructure certain things that can have a better ROI? So that's the comprehensive consult part. But this is just like one small piece of it. So there are many other things that goes into it, but this is just one small piece of it. So I thought that I'll show you today live how to do it. And if anybody wants to volunteer, I'll be happy to run your numbers. So that's a good savings for you. So if any one of you guys want to introduce yourself in the chat and just tell me about your age and what kind of income you have. All right. So yeah, that's fine. So we can take. I'm going to take as an example, and let me just reduce it so we can kind of see it easily here. We're going to take a Roger who is 40-year-old. Okay. All right. Earns 150K. All right. Sounds good. Is that married filing jointly or that single? Okay. Together. Okay, that's fine. That works for me. No problem at all. We can use that number. Okay, so we got 40-year-old earns $150,000 per year. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few more questions if you don't mind. Okay, so let's start with when do you want to retire? What's your retirement age? Would that be 65, 70, 75? What are you thinking? 60? Okay. All right, that's fine. So we'll stick with 60. You want to retire at 60. All righty. Second question I'll ask you is, so right now you are earning $150,000. Okay. And if I were to ask you, how much of that income would you need here in your retirement years? What would that look like? What would that number be? Obviously you need 150K, but how much of that income do you think you need in retirement year? Would that be entire $150,000? Would be a little less, a little more? And I ask you this because oftentimes, by the time we retire, we have already paid off our debt. We don't really have as many liabilities anymore. So we only need money really for our lifestyle, travel, food, medical. That's about it. Although you should think about perhaps buying maybe one or two cars, and should also think about if you want to support your grandchild or anything like that, or maybe you need to put money in some charity or whatnot. So we're going to keep all that in picture. But you give me a number, we can always fine tune it, whatever you like. Okay, let's just say, so I'll make it simple for you. You can give me an option, 50% of it, 75% of it, 80% of it. Not sure? Okay. All right, no problem. If you're not sure, I'm going to help you calculate that uh, in a second. Okay. So what we want to do is, by the time you hit age 60, would you have any debt? No debt, right? Okay. Anything else that you need? Any other liability that you think of? No. Okay. Out of your $150,000, how much money are you spending right now on debt? Like, for example, your car payments or your house payments and mortgages like that. You tell me whatever that number is. Okay, almost 40%. Okay, that's fine. So I'll say 40% of your income is right now going to the debt. So let's write that down. So debt is 40%. All right. How about taxes? How much of that money is going in taxes? Don't know. Okay. Most people around 150 probably going to be somewhere around 25% tax bracket. So I'll put you there. But depend. Are you in state of California by chance, or New York, or any one of these high state tax states? No. All right, good. So, or Texas. Okay, wonderful. That means you don't have any state taxes. I'll leave that alone. But for some of you guys, that might be even more. So what that means is basically, if I go by this number, that means almost 35% of your total earning is going to your savings based on that number. Okay, and if I assume that 40% of this income, remember that's what you said, that almost oh, sorry, I don't think we put that there, right? So no, wait a minute. So we got 40% in debt, 25% in your debt right now. So now we still have one more expense. We're not too fast. We need to talk about your lifestyle expenses, right? And that means how much do you spend in food, in travel, in buying things that you like to buy, paying for your insurance, healthcare, all that kind of good stuff. What do you think what that number looks right now? Like what percentage of your income you think? Almost half? No, that's not possible because if you're paying 40% in debt, 25% in taxes, you don't really have 50% left over. So that would not add up. Okay. Let's say about 30%. So you're earning $150,000. That's almost $45,000. Would that be fair enough? Okay. So if I do that, that leaves me with savings of about 5%. That is what your current lifestyle looks like. Okay. Now let's see if we can convert this not sure into something else at this point. So what we can say is, well, what will happen at retirement? Do you think you would still have debt? Probably not, right? That means you can use that income, like, or especially if I say 30% of your that at the end of the day, you really have this 35%, right? That's what you're living on. So if I say that, hey, look, 35% of this income is what I actually get to use. Okay, that's what you're right now having. So if I do that, that means that's what I need. Okay, and that number in today's dollar would be 52,500 per year. Okay, so you're with me on that math? So basically, this is what you told me, that look, I am saving 5% every single year, whether it's through your 401k, Roth, real estate, whatever, doesn't matter. You're saving 5% of that income, and you want to retire in 20 years. And in 20 years, you would like to have purchasing power of $52,500 per year. That's what you're looking for. Okay. So can we convert your 5% savings into $52,000? That's the question we will have. So before we do that, we need to really add on inflation to this number. because without the inflation, we don't know. Now, you give me a number, it could be 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. I can use whatever number you like, but historically speaking, we've been in between 2 to 3%. Last couple of years been exception. Inflation was really high, but generally speaking, U.S. Does really good with inflation. So we can kind of assume maybe 3% inflation for next 20 years. Okay. If I do that, if I assume 3% inflation, that 52,000 now actually becomes 94,821. Okay. So 4,821. That's what you really need in your retirement year. So you're looking for almost $100,000 income, um, basically, by the time you're age 60. That's what you're really looking for. Okay. So um, let's move further now. So we know the number, magic number. Now let's see if that is actually possible or not. So we know this is our magic number. This is what we need. But what we need to know is how much do I need to save? Okay. To figure that number out, let's say if I have a saving of X dollars, let's say if it's $1 million, $2 million, I need to see what percentage of that will I withdraw. What would be a safe percentage that I can withdraw? Maybe it could be 3%, 4%. You might have heard back in the days, well, not even back, even today, I see it again and again where people are talking about that, hey, we need to 4% is a safe rate. Some say 5, some say 3. So I don't know. So let's just stick with 4% withdrawal rate at this point. So I need to answer two questions, and I'll let you make a guess. First is, how much can you earn on your savings? That would be the first question. Um, if you invest, for example, in broad market index funds like S&P 500 or total market index funds, something like that, then generally speaking, you can earn about 10%. If you're doing something else, maybe 5%. So I'll let you pick a number. 10%? Okay. So if you pick a number as 10%, then my first question to you would be is, if you take a look at your 401k currently, are you earning 10%? Because if you're not, then I have a problem, right? Because you're kind of over estimating your returns. So double check that. I know you don't have to do that today, but I'm just saying uh, double check that. But I'm going to stick with your number that you are able to earn 10%. And how much are you going to withdraw? So let's say you withdrawal rate would be, let's say, 4%. All right, so I'm going to run some calculations based on that. So if I run a withdrawal rate of 4%, that means in order for me to generate this income, to hit my goal of this income right here, 94,821, what I need is 1,274,272 in today's dollars. Okay, that means that's how much that buying value I need, and almost 2,370,521 in future dollars. Okay, so this is the magic number. This is what I need to have by the time I retire if the withdrawal rate is 4%, 2.3 million. So my question now is, look, this saving, okay, can it hit this number? Now the problem is, if I earn 10% return, how much would that save? Okay, so I'll run some quick calculation for you here. So if you're saving only 5% of your income, that will get you to only $580,000. You see that? So that's just not going to help you hit your goal. So we are in trouble. These numbers don't add up. Okay. In matter of fact, you need to earn almost 20%. Okay. So earn 20, actually to be exact, 22% per year to achieve your goal of 94,821 income. And it gets more complicated just and I'll explain to you just in a second. But that's what you're really looking at. So big problem we have is that your saving rate is just way too low. You need to focus on increasing your savings. That would be my first priority right now. Okay, so let's take a look what happens if I am able to do that. So maybe I can help you reduce your debt. So I'm going to redo these numbers and I'm going to move them here for a second. Let's say, so this scenario, current scenario you have, that's you're going to run into a problem. So this scenario will run into problems. Okay, the numbers just do not add up with me. So I'm going to fix this for a second. Let's say if I if I can reduce your debt services to 30%, and I'm able to reduce your taxes, let's say by 5%. Okay, and that's our goal here when clients come to us. That's one of the things that we like to focus on, is how can we make that happen for them. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is rerun the numbers based on this. So I'm going to reduce the debt to, let's say, 30% and taxes to 20%. Okay. If I'm able to do that, you know what happens? All of a sudden, everything else remains the same. That means you're still earning 10% on your return. Now, all of a sudden, guess what? You're going to have 2,370,521 in your account by age 60. All right. Oops, sorry, went to the wrong place here. Let's put. So you see the solution here is we need to really focus on reducing debt and taxes. A lot of time people focus a lot on lifestyle, but I know focusing on lifestyle can work, but it's very hard to do. Um, on the other hand, debt and taxes can have a big impact, because what happened is now I'm, instead of saving 5%, now I'm able to save 20% of my income. And if I'm able to save 20% of my income, I will hit this number by age 60, and I'll be able to withdraw almost $94,821. So now this solution actually works. Okay. Now this is, but we still have a problem. The problem is, how long are you going to live? So we need to kind of calculate that as well, right? Because if longer you live, we need to see if this is going to make sense or not. So let's make some guesses again. What do you think the mortality uh, number would look like a age, basically? That's what I'm really looking for here. So what happens is a lot of people think that most male mortality age would be 80, but I don't really like using that number, because I think it's better that a client gives me that number. You know, because you know about your family, you know the medical history, so you understand about how long people in your family live. So that would be a much more accurate number, and we should do our calculations based on that. So if you give me a number, um, for example, take a look at your grandfather, grandmother, uncles in your family. How long are they living? 85, 90? Okay, so let's say somewhere between 85 and 90. That's fine. We can use that number and run our calculations based on that. Okay, so let me see. Let's say if I say I'm going to use what's your 85 or 90? 85. Let's just stick with 85. Okay. So I need to know two calculations now. So first of all, I'm going to use your number, the number that you have given me. So for mortality, age is 85. And the second question I have to ask you is, we know that you think you can earn 10% in your earning years, but what about in your retirement years? How much do you think you can earn retirement earnings? Because remember, you have this amount, right? You have almost $2.3 million sitting in a bank account. You're not going to leave it in a broad based index fund at that point. You're probably going to diversify, maybe put majority of it in bonds and a little bit in stocks and something like that. Yeah, I can choose a number for you, but I'll prefer that you choose it. But I'll tell you, most people in retirement, they're happy with 4 to 5%. So let's say if you can earn 5% instead of 10% at that point, what happens then? Because remember, now we need this money to last from age 60 to what? 85. That means I need this money to last. So we need this money to last for 25 years, right? Yeah, 25 years. So we need this money to last for 25 years. That's the number that you have given me. Okay, so let's run some math based on that. What happens now? So let me run some calculations here real quick. Okay, so the good news is, if I take a look at this number, is that your withdrawal rate that you have set up was 4%. Remember that right here? So you have given me this number, 4%. And beauty about that number is, because it's 4% and you're earning 5%, that means this number will, you're in pretty, like, you're not going to outrun your savings. You're good because this number is below this number. So based on my calculations, in by the time you're age 85, you would have withdrawn this amount every single year for the next 25 years and still have almost $1.46 million left for your family. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good math to me now. So now I'm pretty comfortable. Like, what about if you're age 90, let's just say? Okay, you're still pretty good. Maybe you won't have 1.46 million. You will probably have maybe around half that, maybe 500, $600,000 left over. So you are still very well. So that's how we run the numbers. So in my consultation calls, first step is to figure out what your financial freedom number is, you know, and then kind of work backwards and figure out, first of all, are you on the right path? Are you going to be able to hit that number by the time you hit whatever age you want to retire in? For some of you guys, that might be 5 years out, 10 years out, 15 years, 20 years. Doesn't matter what that number looks like, but we need to go through these calculations to make sure that you're on the right target. So that's number one. Number two is, okay, if you're not on target, what can we do? And like I said, my favorite are these two right here. This is what I like to focus on because I think a lot of people don't focus on these two elements. And I think a lot can be done if we do that, which is your debt and your taxes. Those two are probably the easiest one that we can solve. And then once I do this for you, just don't use that money. Don't move that money into this lifestyle bucket. Move that money into the savings bucket. Okay. And like I said, most important part is we ran this number based on what you told me, which is that you're going to be able to earn at least 10% for the next 20 years. So don't do anything that is going to jeopardize that. You know, what I like to do personally myself is I like to see things into different buckets, you know, um, and that's important because, you know, for example, I'll kind of give you an example here real quick. So let's say maybe I have something in real estate, okay? Maybe I have something in my 401k, okay? Stocks, ETFs, let's just say, okay? And maybe I have something in, let's say, fixed income, and maybe I have something in insurance. So that's another category you can have it in. Okay. And so forth. So idea is you have different buckets, and each one of this bucket kind of have a different purpose. But the goal is that on average, I'm doing more than 10%. Okay. So now you might say, well, why do average? Well, because see what happens is I need these different things for different purposes. Life changes. Each one of these have a different reason why I need it. You know, liquidity problems, financing issues, taxes. So there's a whole different things going on. Right now, we purely looked at the numbers, but I'll give you an example. Let's just say if most of this money, for example, this saving was coming from this account. Let's say if you were primarily saving this money in this bucket. Well, guess what? This bucket is going to get taxed as an ordinary income tax rate. So if in retirement you're in 20%, 30%, guess what? This $94,000 decrease. Now I need to make more than this uh, to to just deal with my tax problem. You know, so that's why I don't really like this idea. Versus if I have a Roth bucket, for example, you know, or maybe insurance bucket, then I don't have that problem. So that's why a lot more goes into the play as well. But anyhow, my purpose of today's call was just to kind of show you how to calculate this financial freedom number and answer any questions that you guys might have around that. Okay. So I'll open it up to Q&A, and you are welcome to ask whatever questions you like. Just put in the Q&A section, please. Don't do it in the chat section because it's just become a little bit harder to track. I don't have an assistant here to kind of clean that up for me. Okay. First question, Deepak, do you work on weekends and evenings? Yes, absolutely. You're welcome to set up consultation appointments. If it's not available on my website, just message me. Say, hey, look, I want to meet up on weekend and evening. Then I'll definitely make some time for you. That's not a problem at all. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Do you do this with every client? It depends. So if you come to me and you specifically ask me that, hey Deepak, can you please check if I'm on right track to meet my retirement goals or my financial freedom goals, then yes, I will run through that. But if you just come for general consultation, you say, hey, look, I'm selling my real estate and I want to know how to deal with my capital gains, then that's what I'm going to focus on. I focus on what your problem is. What do you want me to fix? So I don't really do it in every single consultation calls. However, if it's a comprehensive consultation, then yes, I do go through this math and show you exactly how I do it. The whole purpose of comprehensive consult is really to address all kind of financial issues that you might be going on and then fix it. Deepak, do you also advise on ETFs? No. So, well, I guess depends what kind of advice. So first of all, I'm not an investment advisor. What that means is I don't tell you what to buy, what not to buy, what to sell, when to buy. I don't address those kind of questions. However, I am a coach, so if you ask me a very specific question, like, how should you look at some certain things, I'll be happy to share my thoughts on that. But I cannot give you an investment advice, purely for educational purposes only. That's what I do. Tax advice I can give you because I'm licensed for that. Well, I guess I'm also licensed in insurance, so I can give you that advice as well. But I cannot give you an investment advice. I hope that helps. And honestly speaking, I think most people are very good investors themselves, in my opinion. I don't think you need a third party expertise for that. Um, if the bigger problem is the emotional part, which is really, once again, an educational part of things, I think that's where people get in a lot of trouble. But most people, I think, once they understand all the tools that are available for them to build wealth in this country, then you can do that. All right, next question. So Deepak, you talked about medical earlier, but you did not discuss that at all. Okay, yeah. So that's a very good question. Let's talk about that medical for a second. So um, I ran these numbers based on your current needs, and right now you have insurance, and you're probably paying small part of it, or maybe your company is already paying for it. Once we retire, we often run into some medical cost, which we should account for, and those medical costs can be um, significant actually. So, and sometimes medical cost is not even covered by regular medical that is available to us when we retire. So we need to, for example, maybe we need some chiropractic services, or maybe we need something else, maybe some other treatment that might not be available. So we should really account for that as well. Um, but again, it depends on each individual person. But since you asked, I'll run a number again here real quick. So let's just say, let me go back here for a second. Let's just say if our medical expenses were 10% more, that means whatever. So here Roger has said that he needs $50,000, which with inflation turned out to be almost $100,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that actually he needs 10% more, meaning we're going to account for 10% for medical, so extra expenses. So let me go here and let's add extra medical expenses of 10%. Now, based on that, what I need now is $3 million in retirement. Okay, so if I add that 10%, now remember that number right here. So it was $2.3 million, but now I need $3 million. But the good news is, um, well, so the problem is either we need to earn more than 10% to increase this number. Otherwise, we'll get into trouble. I think we need to run almost 12.5% return to hit that number. So that's why I said we do need to talk about that. So I'm glad you asked that question. So this gets a lot of people in trouble because people don't account for this extra expense. And if you do, that will make it comfortable. But I will offer you another strategy here. Instead of earning more, what if we increase the rate, let's say from 60 to 64? What happens then? Well, if we increase from retirement age from 60, I think that's what we had, right? If I remember correctly, yeah, age 60. So if I increase it to 64, now he's all good. In matter of fact, he'll be all good even, I think, let's see give me one second here. So 60, uh, okay, $3 million. Actually, you'll be still okay. You'll be cutting at a borderline even with this number, because remember we had $1.646 million left over. So that is still okay, but I'll probably take a little bit cushion. That's just cutting it too close. I would say increase by your retirement age by maybe a couple of years, maybe 2, 3 years, like 63 or 64. I would be more comfortable if you stretch it out to at least 64, because if you stretch it out to 64, you will, even then you'll at least have 1.5 million dollars left over for your family. Um, you see, I like to tell my clients to have this kind of cushion, so that way, you know, if some, for example, maybe you buy a car every few years, maybe you take a nice cruise for a few years, or something like that. So having a little bit of a cushion helps a big deal. So if we include the medical expenses, I would recommend this client to consider increasing the retirement age by a little bit. Remember, now, once again, as a reminder, we increase the savings from 5% to 20%. So remember this. So that's what they need to do. So if they increase the savings to 20% and reduce the debt and taxes, that's how they're going to improve their savings. I don't really, unless somebody has a really bad lifestyle, I don't really like to focus. I don't tell my clients, hey, drink one less latte a day, or don't do something they like to do, because that's very hard to do. What you like to do, you like to do. I think if we focus on debt and taxes, that is just a better way of improving our finances. So my recommendation in this case will be is increase the savings to 20% and increase the retirement age by at least 2, 3 years. Then they will have a very comfortable retirement. I hope that answers that question on medical. All right, perfect. Anything else? Yeah. Look, I know many of you guys want to run your own numbers, and honestly speaking, I mean, we can do this whole night long, and we will not be done with it. I don't mind really doing one or two, but honestly, you got to really set up a consultation appointment. And honestly, what I discussed today is just like one part of it, right? Because I only talked about calculating the number. I didn't really get into how do we reduce debt. I didn't really get into how do you reduce taxes. So that's something else I like to take a look at it during the consultation calls as well, because that's when I can add a lot of value to you. All right. Yeah, so just set up an appointment. Just go to taxcodeadvisors.com and you can set up an appointment from there. If there's anything else, what else I do? I do everything. I mean, my my primary job is consulting. So I advise clients on their financial matters, mostly tax related. How can they reduce their taxes, or how they can structure their things in different ways. I also do a lot of business consulting because I had a lot of experience in business. I built property from ground up. I ran multiple businesses, so I have a lot of experience in that. So I can help you out with how you can become more efficient with business and solve some of your challenges. I do a lot of work with people who are starting a new business. You know, um, so I'm involved in quite a bit of that as well. But primary taxes, that's what I do um, for the most part of my life. Okay. All right. If I see like all bunch of repeat questions, and you can always reach out to me via WhatsApp on one-on-one, and I can talk a little bit more about those. But once again, guys, thank you so much for joining today's session. I hope you found it very, very helpful. And like I said, I just want to clarify a couple of things. Nothing I said is complete in today's presentation. Everything was live. Everything was based on the questions that you guys were asking, and the numbers you guys were giving. I hope you understand that. So please don't take this for, if there is somebody other than Roger right now and they're watching it and they're 40-year-old and they're earning $150,000, don't go use that number for yourself, because we don't know. Maybe your savings rate is already higher. Maybe you're in 30% savings rate. Maybe you are not taking advantage of various tax uh, things that are available to us to reduce our taxes. So it's like each customer is a little bit different. Each person had a little bit of a unique need. So I don't want to kind of enforce one idea onto everybody else. So please only use it for educational purposes, and for personal advice, just set up a consultation and we can dig deeper into it. And one thing for sure, in definitely don't take anything as an investment advice. Please, my humble request to you, don't, you know, my I strongly believe that everybody should make their own investment decisions. You can get education, you can learn from other people's experience, you can ask them questions, but at the end of the day, it's your money, and you should make the decisions. I see when I go on the internet these days, on social media, such a bad advice out there. Every now and then there's somebody good, but most of it is junk that can destroy people's life. I meet with clients every single day who heard something about taxes from somebody, who heard about investing in a company from somebody, and they do that and they get into a lot of trouble. So please stay away from all that kind of junk. Learn yourself, take it slowly. Trust me, you're living in the best country in the world that provides you all the tools that you need to be successful, no matter what your income is. Everybody can learn how to make money in this country. There's so many tools. You got 401ks, you got IRAs, you got solo 401ks, you got DB plans, you got HRA, HSA, FSA, the small business, QBI. It's like this country is full of opportunity. There's so much to do to to become financially free in this country. So please just learn about those tools, take advantage of them, and you'll be just fine. All right. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today, guys. If there's anything I can do to help you out, then please reach out to me. Okay. So I'm going to leave the meeting on. So if you guys want to chat among yourself for a few minutes, that's fine. And then I'll see you next month. Till then, goodbye.